What's driving the entire public crazy, the reason why we have millions of views on our social media is because the people are absolutely losing their minds because of what they're seeing in the sky. We need to make sure that we're looking at the right things and that we're fighting for the right things. When Tennessee and Florida pass laws, and even when we pass laws here in Missouri, it's not going to change the chemtrails. And it doesn't matter how harsh you make the punishment. Do we still pass legislation? You better believe we do, because we do want to stop stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud seeding. We want to stop electromagnetic radiation. We want to stop all manipulation of our weather. Those passing laws is good in all 50 states. But this other issue is an issue. People need to understand it.
Commercial planes that are spraying us every day, all day long, nonstop. And actually, it's not just commercial planes, it's all planes. So let me say again that sometimes you see these guys and sometimes you don't. Now, let's discover why that is. So in my hundreds of hours of research, I want to know why we see clear skies for 2 or 3 days, and then we see almost like every single plane is spraying at a certain altitude. So we always have these pesky pilots and meteorologists talk about the right conditions. They make these claims that under the right conditions, a contrail will persist and do what we're seeing in the sky. And of course, they'll say these are just normal. It's normal contrails. Well, there's nothing normal about it. I'm going to get to that point in a minute. But I did find what the right conditions are, okay? And it did matter. Are you still with me? We're going to get a little bit technical now, okay? First of all, what are the right conditions, okay? We're looking at about 30,000 feet. That's about cruising altitude for most of these planes. Now, that's just on average. Some of them are higher, some of them are lower. But the altitude does matter. Number two, the relative humidity must be at around 60% or higher. That's how humid it is up in the stratosphere. It doesn't matter the humidity down here. The other thing that really matters is the temperature at that height, not the temperature at the ground level, but the temperature at 30,000 feet. If it's minus 45 degrees Celsius or cooler, that's also the right condition. And the last one is dew point. It has to be at a certain temperature in order to make condensation possible. So did you notice I said condensation? Yeah, I did. And it actually matters. So again, going back to those meteorologists and the pilots, they'll say that, well, it's going through ice cold air and this very hot engine, it condensates and turns into vapor that persists all day long. Well, that's actually partially true, but you're missing the most important part and they're not telling you. So yes, the very cold air goes through these very hot engines and it condensates into an ice crystal. But in order for it to become an ice crystal, it has to condensate onto something. And here's the rub. They say, well, it's just, soot from the engine. Well, let me tell you something. Soot came out of the engines, and when I was younger, I never saw these types of trails ever. So let me break it down. When we see these chemical trails, we're seeing the actual process of condensation, but it's going on to a particulate. And what's happening now that didn't happen in the past is the fuels are laced with aluminum and these other nanoparticulates of metals. And they're coming right out of the planes, and it's happening every day, all day long. And that's where that's why we're seeing commercial planes spraying. That's why you see a Delta. If you're tracking these guys, you see that it's a Delta plane, or it's a United, or it's Southwest Airlines, or it's DHL. And these fuels are laced with aluminum and other nanoparticulates of metals. What's coming out of the planes is what's making the trail persist. So when the conditions are right and the trails persist and cover the whole sky, it's because the vapor is condensating onto a nuclei. In other words, in order for it to turn into that cloudy thing, it has to have something to grab onto. And that something is metals and major levels of sulfur dioxide. And sulfur dioxide, by the way, has always been the number one choice of the geoengineering scientists like David Keith.
Sulfuric acid in the stratosphere, 20 kilometers over our head.
and they're coming right out of every plane that flies over your house every day, all day long. So haven't you wondered why they all seem to be doing the same thing at the same time? Every plane today at a certain altitude, by the way, altitude matters, are doing the same thing. Now, on another day when the conditions are right, those exact same planes, which many are commercial planes, are going to be covering the sky. So yeah, to understand what we're looking at, we do need to understand the science. And but the thing is, again, it's not normal, and it's actually intentional.
One proposed solution to the problem of global warming involves the seeding of the atmosphere with metallic particles. One technique proposed to seed the metallic particles was to add the tiny particles to the fuel of jet airliners, so that the particles would be emitted from the jet engine exhaust while the airliner was at its cruising altitude.
So I'm going to admit that I have been wrong about some of these things before, but I knew there were some inconsistencies about the fact that these are all stratospheric aerosol injection spraying chemtrails, but I followed the facts. There was just some things that weren't adding up. These are the facts, and it's all the above. It's also the fuels, it's the stratospheric aerosol injections, it's all the other things that we have to stop. Don't take your eye off the prize, though. If you learn the truth, you're going to understand how to stop this and how to address it. So these globalist scientists know that they're going to use anything and everything that they can to block out the sun, to whiten the sky, to make it bright, to reflect sunlight, to protect us from global warming. And they're going to use every means possible. Let's not get caught up in the semantics of it's got to be this or it's got to be that. It's all the above, and we have to address all of it. Yes, they are going to be spraying. Yes, they are spraying. Maybe they're spraying now, like literally spraying out of the chemicals out of the planes. But they're going to be doing that, a lot more of that in the future. We got to get ahead of that. But it's also the fuels. It's all the above. It's Thursday, October the 23rd in Southwest Missouri, 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's a clear, beautiful sky, but we are going to have chemtrails all over the sky this afternoon. Now, how do I know that? It's about 12:30 now, same day. Behold, the trails in the sky. First of all, we hadn't had trails in almost, probably weeks, maybe like 10 days at least, at that point. And then all of a sudden, boom, we had them. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to do what I'm doing to find these. And that way, again, I'm not asking you to believe anything I say. I want you to do this on your own. And that way you will see it for yourself.
I'm seeing the same things that you're seeing, and I'm so glad that you're speaking out about this because we needed somebody to start talking about it.
The reason is this is so important. It's because when we're focused on stratospheric aerosol injections, which is completely understandable. Oh, let me say one more thing about stratospheric aerosol injections. The stratosphere is very, very, very high. Okay. These planes that we're seeing are in the troposphere. Okay. The troposphere and the stratosphere, all of those things are different, but depending on the location that you're at. If you're closer to the equator, the stratosphere is going to be much higher. If you're up close to the poles, up in Alaska or wherever, it's going to be shorter. Okay, that's just how it works. I don't understand all that, but I know enough to say the stratosphere starts, let's say in Florida, for example, or Texas, I think the stratosphere starts at around 60,000 feet. Okay, so these planes are not flying at 60,000 feet. They're below that. Stratospheric aerosol injections or if they're spraying them out of nozzles, first of all, we wouldn't see the plane. You physically can't see them because it's too far. The second thing is the conditions in the stratosphere are much warmer and they're not conducive to trails that linger. Do these trails do these aluminum particles and all these metals and all this soot and basically pollution, coming from the jet engines of these commercial aircraft, they still end up in the stratosphere because of pressure systems that are heated, and the heat rises, and so this stuff does go up into the stratosphere. So it's still achieving the same goal. And if you listen to people like David Keith, he actually says he said something about Mexico whenever Mexico banned geoengineering for the whole country. He commented and said they can't do that because it's coming out of every single aircraft, commercial aircraft anyway. It's already happening. So he's arrogantly saying we're already doing it. It's just we don't have to do it with stratospheric aerosol injections. It's already being done with commercial aircraft. So okay, so I've got a link here on this, and I'm going to share with you guys. So, when I send it to you, all you have to do is click it. So here's what it looks like. This is called earth.nullschool.net. You don't have to take notes because I'm going to send it all to you. So here's what I'm looking at. This is basically a picture of the country, okay, from the satellite. Bottom left-hand side, I click that. And the first thing I'm going to look at, there's three different things we're looking at. The first thing is altitude, okay? So I'm going to see where it says height on the bottom left-hand side. And again, you can come back to this. You don't have to, if you don't see it now, you will later. Start with height. And we're going to click on 250 hectopascals. Now that is a meteorologist verbiage, basically altitude, okay? Because if we're going to look at the conditions, we have to make sure we're looking at the conditions of where the planes are flying in, okay? So 250 hectopascals is between 33,000 and 34,000 feet in the air. So that green dot right there is where we are here in Missouri. So that's the first thing is altitude. So I'll change the height to 250. Then I'm going to look at temperature. All right, so I'm going to look at temperature. So I'm clicking on temperature. And so I'm looking at altitude, 30,000 feet, and I'm looking at temperature. So the first thing you notice is right up here, you see my cursor? It says temperature. So right now at 33,000 feet, the temperature is minus 46 degrees Celsius. So it's ice cold. Even though it's not ice cold down here, it is ice cold up there. So I'm looking at the temperature. The next thing I'm looking at is relative humidity, which is RH. Okay. This is probably the most important one because the relative humidity must be for ideal conditions for these trails. It needs to be around 65% relative humidity. So that basically just means how moist is the air up at that altitude. That's where you hear the words ice supersaturated regions. And the reason they call it that, the ISSR, and it's because there is an existence of moisture in the air, and because it's so cold, that's an ice supersaturated region. So when the planes fly through that, that's the condition. Okay. The next thing you can look at is the dew point. So right now I'm looking at Missouri, right now where I'm at. But if I look down, let's say I move this over and I look up, I don't know where this is, but if I click on that, not sure who that is, but they have 100% relative humidity right now. And if it was daytime, they'd be seeing the trails for sure. Or at least if they don't see trails, they're going to see probably lots of cloud cover. So that's one piece that I want you guys to study because that's a really important part, okay? There's another link that I sent you, and this is even better because it'll give you real specific. And when you click on this link, it is going to give you lots of things, all the plugins that you need to be able to see. So this is a map, obviously, of the US. So this is windy.com, and this is what they're starting to use. This is brand new technology where they're tracking contrails. So I've been wondering for all these years, why aren't meteorologists talking about contrails?
How often does this change? Like, do you need to go on during the day and look at it, or
Oh
is it like
yeah, it
day?
changes all the time. It's hard to predict exactly what tomorrow's going to be. I can tell you what I think, but it's
Mm-hmm.
based on, the forecast. So the forecast can be off, right? But I can tell you 100% right what it is right now. And I can also go backwards in time and tell you exactly what it was then. If you're seeing those trails, these trails are persisting because of the conditions are right. And the other part is the planes are spewing out all these metals and sulfuric acid, by the way, lots of sulfuric acid. Just to let you know, the EPA's whenever the EPA decided that they were going to reduce emissions for diesel trucks throughout the United States, they brought they made sure that the fuels were very low sulfur. They have to reduce their sulfur output from their emissions. But if you look at their guidelines for aviation, it's like skyrockets. So it's almost like they're intentionally giving the aviation industry the ability to do this for nefarious reasons to be able to get carbon credits. Countries have to reduce their temperatures and their carbon footprint. This is one way to mitigate that. And so it's almost like this is an intentional way of doing that and accomplishing that. So, okay, so I'm going back to this windy.com, okay? And if I go to the top right, I find Contrail Finder, and I clicked on that. And so let's go to a location, click anywhere on here, and you can see on the right-hand side if you're going to see them that day or not. Okay, you see how it changes?
Yeah, I see that. I
So
see that.
I'm going to X out of that, and I'm going to go back to the menu, top right, and I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to go all the way down here to look at webcams. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to click on webcams. This is really handy because I can actually find out right now what they're seeing exactly in real time. And then I can look at the conditions and compare them. Or I'll find a clear sky and go, okay, well, that matches what I'm seeing in the conditions. So I'm going to show a quick video of what I did today. So since we're doing our Zoom call at night and we're not going to be able to see the cameras because it's too dark, I'm finding some spots here that I'm going to show you. Right now it's 12 o'clock Central Time PM. Here's what it looks like. You can see the sky up there. See those trails over there on the right? I can go backwards in time a little bit. See it over there on the left? Those trails. These are long trails. And so let's check the conditions there. And right now, if I click in that area, then what does it say? So yes, it says longer contrails possible at 34,000 feet, but even longer contrails persistently at the 42,000 feet. So that tracks with what we're talking about. Then I'll look over here at a place called Bismarck, North Dakota, where there's no trails whatsoever and a beautiful blue sky. Let's look at the conditions here. So in that area, this says no contrails predicted. So once again, that's tracking with what we're looking at. Here's an article. The FAA, NASA, NOAA admit jet spray chemicals that linger in the sky and alter the weather. I'm going to give you a chance where you can actually download it and look at it. This really is their roadmap, and it just came out this year. And it talks all about what we're talking about now. Not only are they aware of it, it's been going on for a long time, and it has their plan to mitigate that. So they're saying that they're going to do something about it, because the most recent stuff that we're hearing now is that these contrails, these persistent contrails that they call them, is actually having a net warming effect. Now they're on this thing to say, now we have to get rid of them. And it says, oh, we'll get to it by 2050. But down here in that same article, it talks about how the troposphere, which is the lower levels, right? The troposphere is where the FAA, NASA, and NOAA admit metal nanoparticles and sulfur-containing commercial jet air emissions produce. When the air at altitude is cold and wet enough, which is the Schmidt-Appleton criterion, and basically what I showed you earlier, that's called the Schmidt-Appleton criteria. Visible lines that linger, disperse, and block out the sun and sky. I'm going to share these links with you so that you can, from now on, you can take these links and you can look and say, okay, I see trails today, and you will match that up with what the conditions say. Or the opposite, you'll say, I don't see trails today, and you'll match that up. So the whole point here is basically this. we need to make sure that we're looking at the right things and that we're fighting for the right things. The reason when Tennessee and Florida pass laws, and even when we pass laws here in Missouri, we're going to pass a law. It's not going to change the chemtrails. And it doesn't matter how harsh you make the punishment. What's driving the entire public crazy, the reason why we have hundreds of thousands and millions of views on our social media is because the people are absolutely losing their minds because of what they're seeing in the sky. They think they're going to wake up the next morning and there's not going to be any trails anymore. And that's not going to happen. So what do we do from the state level? We cannot do a dang thing about this from the state level. Do we still pass legislation? You better believe we do, because we do want to stop stratospheric aerosol injection. There's a new startup that's happening in Israel right now, Stardust or something like that. And they're going to be starting their spraying operations who knows, they say soon, whatever that means. We do want to stop that. We do want to stop cloud seeding. We want to stop electromagnetic radiation. We want to stop all manipulation of our weather. They're screwing with our weather, and we're reaping the devastation as a result of it. We have to have the focus on that. So passing laws is good in all 50 states, but we have to be realistic with our people and say, look, this other issue is an issue. People need to understand it. And if they do, we need to put pressure on the EPA. This is the reason why Lee Zeldin has been coming out. He reposted that video recently saying, hey, we're going to be, and he keeps saying contrails, right? But he's using the language that's on here. And actually, they have a new term for it. And what they're calling it is contrail cirrus, okay? Because these contrails, these chemical-filled chemtrails basically are turning into cirrus clouds. And it's the cirrus cloud that is what covers the sky. So they call it contrail cirrus. And that's what's called in this report. And that's what he's talking about. So we need the EPA. We don't want to wait till 2050 for these guys to get their act together. I'm sorry, but it talks all about their stakeholders and how to please them. But I don't want to wait till then. And I don't trust NOAA, and I don't trust NASA, and I don't trust the FAA. I'm going to put together a push to go after the EPA to tell them that we know what you're doing. We know that you're giving leniency to the airline industry for the sulfur output. And we also know that the fuels are laced with aluminum particulates and who knows what else. And you know, and we know that that's causing this issue, the reason why we're even in this discussion. And until you do something about that, we're never going to stop yelling. We're never going to stop screaming at